I'm Benjamin Hall, and I'm searching for heroes.
Well, thank you for joining me today, everybody. And I've got to be honest, our guest today is from a world of which I don't know very much, but I have been reading a lot about it, and it's something I think we all need to learn more about, and it is the foster care system. My guest is Cara Finger. She set up an incredible group called My Bag, My Story, because Cara herself is a foster parent and has fostered a number of children who have come through her home. But what she realized was that so many of them who came to her, they came carrying just a trash bag with a few items in it. That's all these children have. And she said about trying to create a system where at least foster children had bags. And the idea was it wasn't just giving them bags, it was trying to give them worth. It was trying to make them show that they had belongings, that they had something to look forward to. And we talk about that today, but more importantly, we talk about the foster care system, how difficult it can be, but also the great rewards that are there as well. So thank you very much for joining us, and I hope you enjoy this week's episode. Cara, again, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a great pleasure. And it's a great pleasure because I have been reading about all the amazing work you've been doing and the messages you are sending and the change that you're trying to bring about. And I wondered if you could start off by telling us a little bit about the foster care system. I know it's a big question, but I guess many of our listeners might not have a real idea of what the foster care system is and how children get allocated, for example.
Yes. So thank you. First of all, thank you, Ben, for having me. The foster care system is a complex system. It's a program that the United States has for children that need a home. And so children in the foster care system, there are in the United States alone, close to 400,000 children that are in the foster care system right now nationwide. Around 100, and it's estimated that between 120 and 150,000 of those children are ready for permanent placement, meaning they went into the foster care system and for whatever reason are not able to be reunited with their family. And so they need to be adopted.
What are some of the reasons that a child would go into the foster care system?
Oh gosh, that's a loaded question because, there's a multitude of reasons. Children end up in care when the people that are caring for them, unfortunately, have either lost the ability or, from, a multitude of reasons that children end up in the foster care system. They end up not being able to live where they normally in their family unit. And so they're put into the foster care system. And there's not near enough foster homes nationwide for children to be placed in. And so unfortunately, a lot of these children, especially the older that they get, bounce around from place to place, home to home, group to, group home to group home, different places. And unfortunately, the older that they get, it's harder and harder to place them.
Do all children who go into foster care, is the initial idea that they will return back to their parents or their original carers as soon as they are able to do so? So is it sort of waiting until that is possible?
Of course, that reunification is always the goal. Unfortunately, that can't happen in certain circumstances. Either the caregivers, are, incarcerated, have passed away, don't go through a program for, whatever they need to get clean on. So the children end up in the system longer and longer. So yeah, there's a multitude of reasons that they end up in the foster care system. And then there's a multitude of reasons that they stay year after year in the foster care system, moving sometimes 7 to 10 times in a year.
That's interesting because when you move that many times, is it because the first perhaps foster home you go to has said they can only have you for a month? Is it who sets those limits?
Well, That's another complex question because, because there aren't enough foster homes nationwide, they have, children will end up in a foster home for example, we had a young man for a year. We kept him for the entire year so that he could stay in the same school system because people don't understand that when these children move, 2, 3, 4, 10 times in a year, they're making new friends. They're going into a new school system. So how can they have cohesiveness in their education to be able to, get an education and be grade appropriate? And so, there's so many things when a child moves that go into them not being able to keep up in school and not getting the proper education that they need.
And at the very heart of this must just be trying to provide the best welfare, best future, best possibilities for the child themselves. You can talk about all the bureaucracy around it, where they go, but what you provide, what foster homes provide, is basically trying to, I suppose it is to help them maybe get over what has been difficult so far,
right,
while also trying to show them real positives for the future. I mean, so what a hard job for foster parents.
Yeah, fostering, again, the older that children get, the harder that it gets to place them because, it's a lot different fostering a brand new baby that's come into the foster system that doesn't have a lot of history in the foster care system. But when you get a 15, 16, 17-year-old that's been their life for the last 5, 10 years, you have a lot more things that again, there's no cohesiveness in their life and, trusting is hard. And, these children just need to know how much they're valued.
Yeah. And that's exactly what my story really starts off trying to do. And tell us a little bit about why it started. I mean, it's fascinating to hear, the bags they were originally often turned up with, etc.
Yeah. So we became foster parents. Just to give a little background, I'm an adopted child myself. So I got really blessed having a mom and dad to raise me. But I always knew in my soul that I was very lucky. So I grew up, knowing how blessed I was. My husband and I got married. I have a wonderful husband of 25 years and 3 beautiful children. 2 of them we adopted. And we decided after our children had gotten to a point, that we felt like we could do more, we decided to become foster parents. And it was at that time, when children kept coming through our door, I kept asking people in our community of fostering, did your child come with a trash bag? Did your child come with their belongings in a grocery sack? Did they come and they just handed you the 3 items, the shoe that didn't fit, the raggedy doll, and a pair of shorts? And they're like, yeah, that's so common. And I was like, but it doesn't have to be common. So I set out trying to figure out how to provide a bag for just children in our community that were coming with a grocery sack or a trash bag.
More of our conversation right after this. It just paints a picture, doesn't it? I suppose these moves happen so often, or they can happen so quickly, that a child who is having to find or move to a foster home is maybe just grabbing the few things that they have in their room and like you said, a toy, a pair of shoes, one set of clothes, and that's it. And they're taking their entire lives, they're putting them into one bag, and they are going to an entirely new place. And it must be so sort of very scary for the children as well. And with that in mind, can you tell me a little bit about how you interact with a child when they first come in your door? How do you reach out to them and say, you're welcome here. You've got a safe place here. Like, that's the beginning of the relationship, I guess.
Absolutely. When they come through your door, it's our goal as foster homes is to make a child feel welcome. This is going to be your home, whether it's for the next 24 hours or whether it's for the next year, 2 years. I mean, children sometimes, live in a home for a year, 2, 3 3 years at a time. And so making them, you can only imagine how a child feels how your child feels holding your hand walking into a stranger's house. Well, you have a child that is not only lost where they've come from, then they're in a, in a situation that they were probably removed in the middle of the night, in a dramatic situation, whether it be, a multitude of reasons that children get taken into foster care, and then they're trying to find a foster home. It's, 4:00 in the morning, and this child is going to a stranger's home with their belongings carried in a trash bag. It's extremely traumatic for them.
Does it quite often happen straight away? Like, are there foster homes ready for them to go to, and they might leave their home in the middle of the night and the next day that they are somewhere new, or do they go into some sort of more state or county,
Well, so what happens, the way that the foster care system is, at least in our state, is the state governs children coming into care, whether it's for Child Protective Services, Department of Children's Services, the police, any way that they end up coming in. So they end up, they could be, it all depends on if there's a foster home available. If there's not, thank goodness there are agencies now that have really stepped up and tried to make, instead of children going and sitting in offices all night long, they have, started building houses for children to come for that in-between time where children will get to go and have a warm meal, take a shower, watch TV, whatever it is, while they're looking for a child to go into a foster home.
Yeah.
But sometimes the children are stuck sitting in an office listening to call after call after call. Can you take this child? Can you take this sibling group of 2? Can you take this sibling group of 5? And, people are like, no. And so the social worker is just calling, trying to find a home for them to go to. Sometimes that can take a long time.
Yeah. And I suppose it is different with each child who comes to your home, but would you often sit down and talk to them about, do you find it helps to talk about how they've just got there? Do you straight away say, goodness, this was really difficult, let's talk about it? Or do you try not to talk about it? Like, I don't know.
And what you're asking is it's difficult to answer because, if you're taking in a 1, 2, 3, even 4-year-old, they can't articulate. But if you're taking in a 16 or 17-year-old, they can, but chances are they don't want to talk to you because they don't know you. So, it takes a while to build the trust with the child or children, depending on if they're a part of a sibling group, for them to earn the trust for them to even talk about where they came from.
I suppose the trust must be really difficult to build at first because, or do you find it varies per child? Do some children come in and understand totally that you're there providing a foster home and they welcome it? And do others come in with the guard up and say, I don't know who you are? And I gather a quarter of children who come in suffer from PTSD already. So I imagine in some cases you must see a barrier put up, in other cases you must see a sense of gratitude.
You see an array of emotion with children that are coming in. They, because of the different places that they're coming from, it varies, but I can pretty much, assure you that, a 15, 16-year-old that's coming from, the crack house where their parents were living and they get removed, that they're not going to come in and automatically share everything that has happened to you, or happened to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And trust is a huge thing in foster care. And the older that you get, the harder it is for children, just like any of us. If you have had situations where, your trust is blown over and over again, it's hard to trust.
Yeah. So do you have a number of routines? Let's say for someone who is able to, over the age of 5, perhaps, do you have a sort of a routine that you like to follow first of all when they come in the door, and then for the first week, and then presumably you're also taking them in some cases to a new school? Like, are you side by side with them as they build this new life alongside you?
You try to be, absolutely. You let for sure the school system know, this child has been through complete trauma. They may have a real problem, fitting in and going in even to a classroom, a brand new classroom again.
I know that you've got 3 children, as you said earlier, 2 are adopted, but what is the relationship like between a foster child who comes in with your children? Because that's also an interesting one.
Again, that's a very broad question because, the difference in having a, 0 to 9, 10-year-old child with your children in the home is a lot different than, 10 to age 18 that are in your home. And so, that's just a really hard question to answer because there's just so many circumstances that play a part in that.
Yeah. How many foster children have come through your home?
We have fostered 5 children.
Yeah. And is that, I mean, you're a big part of the community now. Is that something that you want to continue doing? I mean, I imagine that there are some incredibly uplifting moments and that you're helping the community, and there must be some really difficult moments. And I wonder how that makes you feel as you look ahead.
Yeah, we have a medical emergency in our family. And so right now we're not able to bring kids in. And My Bag, My Story has kind of become our foster child to, even though we can't bring kids into our home right now, to be able to provide them, with something that's tangible that helps build dignity is, what my heart is.
Yeah, and that's a key thing here. It's not just giving them a bag. And by the way, I have just before we spoke, I have bought a bag of my own, and I hope that every other listener out there will do the same. Because it's not just a bag, it's giving them a real sense of worth, and it's giving them more of an identity. Explain to us why this bag is more than just giving them a bag.
So a bag seems really small in the grand scheme of foster care, but it makes a huge difference in a child's dignity and self-respect. Meaning when you're given a trash bag, you feel like trash. It gets mistaken. I've heard over and over again from children that brought their belongings in a trash bag and somehow it got thrown away because it was mistaken for trash. And it had, the only picture that they had of their family in it. And so, giving a child a bag, while it seems so small, makes a huge difference in their self-esteem.
Yeah. How you see My Bag, My Story grow. I mean, I know that 4,000 bags already. Are you seeing more and more people now learn from what you're doing and trying to spread the news?
Well, so My Bag, My Story, we give really great bags to kids. And I love the fact that we give great bags to kids. But what we also do is we're trying to advocate and bring awareness to the fact that this is even going on. Because just like you said, Ben, you really had no idea that this was going on everywhere around you. And so what we do is not only give great bags and try to give children something tangible that they can hold on to that brings them dignity, but also advocate and let people know even that this is happening right in their community, and they didn't even know it before. It gives us a vehicle to be able to talk about foster care. These are great bags. And it's like, yeah, these are great bags. But the reason that these bags exist is because every time you purchase a bag, one is given to a child in foster care.
Is your main aim, do you think, now to get more people open to fostering? And if that is the case, what would your message be to someone listening right now who obviously thinks, it is going to be difficult, but how would you persuade them that for the community's sake, this changes lives, this makes everyone better? Like, how would you persuade someone?
Well, here's the thing about, bringing awareness. In order for people to be aware is the first step. Then people, that become interested can either reach out or look into foster care. But if you're not aware of it, you can't do anything. And so that's what we're trying to do at My Bag, My Story, is bring awareness that this exists when there are people that have not ever even thought about fostering, because we need more foster homes nationwide.
But you must also be able to try and explain to some people why they should be foster parents and the rewards that it gives.
Yeah, well, I mean, trying to, I'm constantly trying to persuade people to become foster families. But another thing that we try to do is we say, if you can't be a foster family, if you don't want to, take on that, there is still other things that you can do, mowing a foster family's grass, planning a meal train, bringing coffee to them, to the people that are on the front lines taking in kids into their home. There is always something that you can do in the foster care system, not bringing a child into your home. There's something that everyone can do to help.
Yeah. Do you maintain a relationship with the foster children who come through your home? I mean, do you, after they've gone to another home or they've gone back to their original parents or their home, do you stay in touch with them? Are you able to then continue to see them grow?
Some, yes. There are privacy laws again, around some of that stuff. And so, my heart is I love to, find out. I mean, some of the children that we fostered, I'm in touch with, different avenues of finding out how they're doing. And, one of the young men that we had in our house just graduated from high school and, just wanted to know, did he graduate? And, so yes, but sometimes it's really hard to keep in touch, with the next place that they go for, it's just a multitude of reasons that, they end up moving.
Yeah. And I gather that quite a few people who go through the foster care system end up homeless once they turn 18.
Yeah, so that is another thing that we do, and we are really glad that there are places that are stepping up, is realizing that children in foster care in most states age out of the system at age 18. And, giving an 18-year-old saying, good luck, you're on your own. You can only imagine the unfortunate statistics that happen: teenage pregnancy, incarceration, homelessness, prostitution, trafficking. And so we're trying to go upstream, if there is something that we can do to help these children not end up on their own, mentor programs. And so I think states are realizing that, that this is happening to children, that just because they're 18 doesn't mean that they're adults. I mean, they are, by state rules, but, when you're not given a safety net and you're put out, at age 18 and you're on your own, it's really hard in life for most of these kids.
Yeah. More of our conversation right after this. What would you like to see set up? Like, were there programs that should be set up that the state should set up to help those who turn 18?
There are a lot of great agencies and programs in the state that they're finally recognizing and setting up, extension of foster care programs that are helping children, helping them interview for jobs, helping them with groceries. I mean, something as simple as, giving them a safe place to land so that, if you don't have money, you can't pay rent. And so, if you can't couch surf and you've couch surfed to too many of your friends and you end up on the streets. And so people have really recognized that there is a need and are some great programs for kids that, give them mentorship and teaching them how to interview and how to, businesses that are giving children in foster care and the extension of foster care programs opportunities for jobs, opportunities for teaching.
Yeah. I'm still fascinated by the idea that, I think of my children and I spend every day trying to teach them about, hard work, don't stay off drugs, don't do this and do that. But as a foster parent, you don't know how much time you have, and if you can't sit down and lecture someone straight away, you don't have much time. And I'm still just so interested in how you would try and approach that, because you must want to impart, all of these skills that you were talking about at the state office, impart these skills to them, but you don't know the timeline that you can do so. And I'm fascinated as to how that works for you and how you go about doing that.
You do the best that you can do for the time that you have with that child.
Yeah. What do you have to do? What is the program to get into being a foster parent? Are you sort of taught it a variety of ways? Do you have to go through a course? Do they say, you shouldn't say this? What's that like?
I could speak on behalf of our state, but I know that all states have a program. It's usually between 30 and 40 hours of training that you go through, multiple training for, different scenarios and things that could happen becoming a foster parent so that you get licensed to be a foster family. And of course, I can only speak to my state, but there is a requirement for foster families to become a foster family.
Yeah. Could you talk to me, sort of give me an example of perhaps the greatest reward from of being a foster parent?
God, the greatest reward is giving, even if it's for a night, giving a child security while they're with you. Trying as hard as you can to let them know at that time that they're seen, that they're loved, that they are secure. There are some really, heartbreaking situations that happen where, the child ends up having to leave your home. But for the time that you have them, my heart is to show them as much love, security, that I can while they're in our care.
What would you say is the hardest part of being a foster parent?
That's another question. Being a foster parent, I mean, you just talked about your own kids. It's hard having your own kids that you're with every day. So, you have a child that ends up in your home that you haven't parented for the last 10, 15 years. They're 15 years old and they've had multiple people trying to parent them. And so you really try to reach them where they are.
Yeah. I know that you have sometimes called foster children sort of local refugees. And if you could sort of just describe that.
Well, just that people do not realize that this population of children exists. And so to educate them is a great way to bring awareness that there is this population of children that by no fault of their own have ended up in the foster care system. And there is always something that someone can do to step in and help.
Do you have any advice for people who are listening right now, who are thinking about it?
My thing is I used to try to talk people into being foster parents. I used to be like, you have to do this. It's, our life wasn't meant to be easy. And this is a really hard thing to do. But the reward that you get is so great. And if you want to do something, it's always important as a human, I think, to give your life away in some way. Even if it's not fostering, there's so many different ways that you can serve other people by giving your life away, by sacrificing something that is in your life so that you can help someone else, be it big or small, be it bringing a child into your home or simply buying a bag to help a child travel with some dignity.
Yeah. Do you sometimes look around the communities and think that maybe not enough is being done, that not enough people are standing up when things are bad, not helping enough when people need help?
I look around the community and think, I need to educate more people about the fact that this is going on.
Yeah. Well, then to finish up, I wonder if you could, how would you finish this? If we were talking about foster parenting and you were talking to people who are listening, what's the message that you want to end up giving to them?
First of all, to all foster families that are listening, thank you for the hard work that you are doing. And for people that are thinking about fostering, don't let it be a passing thought. Take action, figure out a local place in your community that you can find out more about fostering. And then if you find out that, that is something that you want to do, take the next step. And if you find out that that's not what you want to do, there's still something that you can do to help children in the foster system.
Well, look, it's incredible what you do. And I will keep telling people as well that they should go out and do whatever they can, even if it's not fostering, maybe help people who are fostering. It's an amazing amount of numbers at the moment. Almost 500,000 children are in the foster care system or need foster care homes. So thank you for everything you do, Cara. And thank you for joining us on the podcast. And if anyone is listening, has a moment, start off by going to My Bag, My Story. Starts off with a simple idea of providing bags, but actually leads to so many more great things that really help the community. So thank you for what you've done.
Thank you so much for having me and letting me share.
Well, I guess listening to that, my first thoughts are just how different every experience would be when you have a foster child come to stay. If you're a foster parent, they might be a couple years old. They could be teenagers. And with each one who may come from totally different backgrounds, might have gone through totally different things, you have to overnight welcome them into your home and then just try to make them feel at home, make them feel cared for, and try to show them something positive in the future. And I just can't think of anything that might be harder for people who have come from really difficult, broken places to be doing that. So just want to say that take my hat off to every single foster parent out there. It is a remarkable thing they do. But it is all about helping the community. It's trying to make people stronger, trying to help those people who have been knocked down. And I just can't praise Cara enough for what she's done. So thanks everyone for listening today. And if you have a few moments, go to My Bag, My Story, and offer any kind of support that you can. Thank you. Listen ad-free with a Fox News Podcasts Plus subscription on Apple Podcasts. And Amazon Prime members can listen to this show ad-free on the Amazon Music app.